will stay with Bubble till the end of the year and then make the switch to custom code. This is something that one of our customers recently told me. We built them a Bubble app a few months ago and have been helping them since then as their extended product team. And this conversation got me thinking, is actually switching from no code to code really necessary? Is it even the right decision? And when should you actually make that move? In this video, I'll break down the real differences between code and no code, when staying with no code makes perfect sense, when switching to custom code actually makes more sense, real examples of companies that made a switch and some who didn't, and how to make the decision for your business. Let's jump in. There's this persistent idea in the tech world that real products need to be built with custom code, that somehow a Bubble app or a no-code solution isn't good enough for a business to scale on. And also the idea that these no-code apps are just temporary solutions. I get it. Custom code sounds more professional, sounds better, it sounds more scalable, and even sounds like more serious to some people. And of course, there are definitely really large companies using custom code stacks serving millions of users. But here's what most people miss. The technology stack is rarely the limiting factor for 99% of businesses. Now, let me share a few industry examples of companies that built on Bubble and actually never had to make that switch. First, picture a fintech company that processes hundreds or a few thousand transactions daily. They started on Bubble 2 years ago and they built the first MVP using that no-code technology. And today, after a few years, they serve around 6,000 users on a month-to-month basis using that same no-code stack. They still run everything on Bubble. They're slowly scaling. It's kind of a bootstrap business. They did raise a little bit of money, but they're not in that hyper-growth kind of career or race. And things are still looking pretty solid for them using that same no-code stack they started with in the first place. Second, an education company with a platform that handles content, students, payments, you name it, all built on Bubble. They've scaled to around 2,000 active students using that platform on a day-to-day basis to, study and learn based on those courses. And even after that, they actually got to close a $300,000 round of investment from friends, family, and different colleagues. And this was primarily because investors actually liked the efficiency and the speed of iteration behind that no-code stack. Third, an internal operations tool for a retail business that manages 3 different physical locations. And they get to process around 500 units on a day-to-day basis without any kind of performance or security issues, all hosted on an app built entirely on Bubble. These 3 specific industry examples tell the story of how Bubble can actually scale to any kind of proper day-to-day business that runs smoothly. Bubble can scale because it's built on AWS, which is the same infrastructure powering millions of products that serve millions of users. So this is kind of proof that it's not Bubble that will necessarily limit your growth. It most of the time will be something totally different. Now, that doesn't mean that switching to code never makes sense. So let's explore a few scenarios where making that switch actually does. Number one, when you actually have very specific technical requirements that for some reason no code can't handle. Maybe you need complex real-time processing, intensive calculations, or specialized integrations that for some reason an ecosystem like Bubbles just can't handle. 2, when you need extremely custom UX UI. Sometimes this pushes beyond Bubble or any kind of no-code software. This is rare, but it exists for certain kinds of applications. 3, when you have a technical co-founder who can build, ship, and code, or you've actually built a team with very specific technical knowledge and they actually need to build the app in some kind of custom code environment to best fit their needs. Usually teams with high-level expertise on software makes more sense to have ownership on the code base and actually adds even more scalability in the future. 4, when you're building something where extremely granular performance and optimization really matters, like shaving milliseconds off load times for something like, let's say, a financial trading platform. 5, when certain regulatory elements in your industry have specific requirements that a no-code or low-code ecosystem simply can't handle. Notice what's not on the list: user count, transaction volume, general scaling concerns. These are rarely actual limitations of no-code tools. Now let's look at companies that actually did make the switch, like this marketplace startup that started on Bubble and grew to about 8,000 monthly transactions. They eventually switched to a custom stack. Why was that? It was not performance issues or scaling issues. It was because they got to hire a CTO, and he required a very specific technical team that would build some custom code solutions for the growth and the scalability of the product. This team, not only a CTO, but also the devs, they just preferred working with a very specific custom code stack that best suited their own technical abilities and expertise. Or for example, this other company, which was a SaaS business, they started with Bubble. They scaled the company to about 30K MRR, and then eventually they decided to make the switch to custom code. Why was that? Well, they started signing enterprise and really large businesses as customers, and they started building really specific enterprise features, basically. And above all, these clients actually needed an API. So what they did was kind of staying in a low-code environment. They rebuilt their front end with an entirely no-code tool, and then they built all the backend and the new API with custom code. The pattern that we notice here is that technical limitations are rarely that deciding factor that will take businesses to make the switch from no-code to code. It is usually about either team structure or stakeholder decisions, or even customers asking for something really specific, or even just preference from a business that has the resources to pay for custom code. What most founders don't realize is the true cost behind switching from no code to code. Number 1, rebuilding takes a lot of time. Usually you're talking about at least 3 to 6 months, even for a relatively simple app, and during which you're not building any new features, you're just rebuilding. 2, the real cost is usually 3 to 5x higher than what someone anticipated you. 3, you will most likely lose some flexibility or even features in the transition. 4, maintenance costs will increase dramatically. You will need more developers, not just for new features, but ongoing maintenance. 5, iteration speed often decreases. What took hours in a no-code environment now might take days or even weeks. One founder once told me, we spent $60K and 6 months to rebuild an app we had in Bubble, and we ended up not only spending way more money than anticipated, but also we ended up with this really custom coded app with a complex stack that had less features than the Bubble app we had in the first place. So how do you make the right decision for your business? Here's the framework. Identify actual technical limitations, not just theoretical ones. Are users experiencing issues? Is development speed actually impaired? Calculate the full cost of switching, and not just development, but also opportunity cost of features you're not going to build during the transition. Consider hybrid approaches. Maybe certain components of the app could be custom coded while you keep the main thing within Bubble or a no-code ecosystem. Evaluate your team's structure. Do you have or want to build or even have the capacity to build an in-house custom development team? Be honest about your growth trajectory. Is the switch really needed now? Or are you planning for problems you don't have yet? That founder who told me they would make the switch by the end of the year to move faster hasn't made the switch 2 years later. Why? Because Bubble wasn't actually limiting their growth factor in the first place. Here's my honest take about this topic. For most businesses, no-code tools like Bubble are completely sufficient for years of growth. They will easily take you to thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of dollars of recurring revenue. Making the switch to custom code usually makes sense when you actually have really specific technical requirements, not general scaling concerns. The decision should always be business driven, not based on what feels more legitimate or what you think you should do or what your investors tell you to do. And just remember, your users, they don't care at all what your tech stack is. They care that your product solves the problem that they have reliably and continues to improve on a day-to-day basis. If you're building something in Bubble, WeWeb, Flutterflow, or any no-code or low-code solution and it's already working for your customers, then keep building. Only make the switch when you have specific limitations that are holding your business back. So that's it for today. If you're building something and are wondering about your tech stack, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear about your startup. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.